let's imagine a daily, take any person, right?
The routine.
The routine. Hopefully you've had a good night's sleep. Without noisy interruptions, because all environmental sensors are in place. Make sure no unnecessary noise, no loud traffic, and also you've had good night's sleep. You wake up, you do your routines. If need be, your health parameters are measured. If you need to take any meds, that is both prescribed and recorded. If any communication with your healthcare providers is needed, all that goes seamlessly. Food, the way you procure food, the way it is delivered, the way it is prepared, is done cost effectively, is done efficiently. You have nutritious food on the table. When you make that commute to work, that it is as short and pleasant as possible. You need political will, you need organization, you need transparency, you need education, you need the rule of law. Like I said, the rest of it, the technology part, the hardware part, that one can be bought.
That's easy.
That's easy. But political will, organization, it's actually the human dimensions of it which are more challenging, right? So I would say political will, social capital, and organization. It's not really, there are no real trade secrets.
Hello and welcome, I'm Ayi Makaraig. We are in Singapore for its 50th anniversary, tracking the progress of the Lion City from a third world backwater to a first world city-state, and now as it aims to be a smart nation, using technology for a better quality of life. Today we talk to the man leading this initiative. Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan is the Minister in charge of the Smart Nation Office and the Minister for the Environment and Water Resources. Hello, Minister. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome to Singapore.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you started on that note.
Okay.
Because if you think about Singapore for the last 50 years, there were a couple of things we did under the leadership of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew that made us special. Number one, he took us from a third world town into a first world metropolis in one generation. Number two, we achieved first world infrastructure in a region which at that point in time really only had third world infrastructure. Number three, we were forced to globalize even before globalization became a catchword. And number four, he understood the value of environmental sustainability and being green and creating a city in a garden well before even being green became fashionable. So in a sense, the recurrent theme for Singapore's development over the last few decades has always been about anticipating the future, positioning ourselves with infrastructure, education, capability, and systems so that we can take advantage of future trends. And then, hard work, discipline, and planning and organization. So that, in a sense, has been some of the secret ingredients, or actually not so secret ingredients for Singapore's success. So you need to understand that in order to, in a sense, put this latest effort on being a smart nation in context. We want to be a smart nation, first because we have to. Secondly, because we can, and then later on I'll explain how.
Okay.
Right? So maybe let's approach it
from that context.
Sequence. Okay.
All right.
First, why?
Yeah. Why?
Well, if you look at the IT revolution, which in fact began 50 years ago with the invention of the transistor in Silicon Valley, and then the computers, and then connectivity, the internet, the World Wide Web, and the latest platform technologies, the Internet of Things, additive manufacturing, big data. All these are not just inventions or technological tools. These are platform technologies which will transform completely the way we live, the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we interact, engage, mobilize, and organize our societies, right? So the point is, we have to, because some fundamental platform technologies have opened up whole new vistas of opportunities and potential problems. So that's the first thing. We're doing this because we have to. The next question then is, we are doing this because we can. Why are we in a position to do so? Well, first, because we have been investing assiduously in infrastructure.
That's true.
Fortunately, we have also invested in Infocom infrastructure over the last few decades. For instance, today we have fiber to everyone's home. In fact, not just one fiber, there are 2 fibers terminating in every single home, and ultimately in every single office, factory, and the rest of it. Secondly, that's on the the wired connection in a sense. On wireless connections, we already have 3 mobile telcos, possibly a 4th in the offering. We have one of the world's highest penetration rates of mobile phone, and not just mobile phone, but smartphones. Thirdly, we have a population that is very IT and technology literate and demanding. In other words, sophisticated consumers who want the latest and the best, who know how to use it, and have set expectations on that basis. Thirdly, we have an education system that has focused to a large extent on science and technology. And so this is what I would consider a science and technology literate population. So in terms of the workforce, in terms of both on the supply and the demand side of the equation, we have those ingredients. Another advantage we have is that because we are small, we're really just a city-state, and we therefore only have a single layer of government. And we have technically, I would say even a technocratic government, meaning probably half the cabinet consists of engineers. The Prime Minister is a mathematician who can code. Several of us can code, still code just to keep as an intellectual challenge. We get it. We understand this technology. We're not afraid of it. We understand both the challenges and the problems. And we're looking for opportunities for Singapore to capitalize on the opportunities and minimize the downsides. So that's really the second, cluster of issues I wanted to emphasize, that we want to because we can. We have some areas a slight or a significant head start. Then the next question is, well, how exactly are you going to do this?
Yes.
And here's where I would say that the most important point is that this is not about technology, this is about human beings. This is about daily life. This is about improving the quality of your daily life. This is about increasing opportunities for everyone, not just for the elite, not just for the educated, not just for people who are technically inclined, but creating opportunities for everyone. And the third aim is that even as we leverage on these new technologies, we have to be mindful that it builds social capital, increases cohesion, doesn't lead to a fracturing or a division or a paralysis in the way we organize our society, in the way our communities relate to each other. So that sense of social cohesion and social capital needs to be built up. So I say all this so that we remember that machines, computers, and technology are just a means to an end. The real question is, will you improve the quality of daily life? Will you have inclusive opportunities for everyone? And will you have a more open, cohesive, trusting society with significant stores of social capital being built up rather than being depleted. So I say all this because these are, sort of, in a sense, our paramount considerations when we embark on any plans. So having set that out, we then looked at what specific domains,
Yes. What issues?
would bear most fruit in achieving these three objectives. So for instance, we said, well, let's look at healthcare first. Can we make healthcare more accessible? Can we make healthcare more affordable? Can we make healthcare, the center of gravity of healthcare, shift from hospitals and clinics to homes? Can you access consultation, rehabilitation, even ensuring that people take their medications, according to what has been prescribed? Can we make sure that healthcare becomes safer because monitoring of the outcomes and the parameters, a lot of that can be done in the community or even ultimately at home. So what infrastructure, what systems do we need to install in homes? What applications do we need to develop, both in homes as well as on mobile apps, so that we can make healthcare better? And this takes added urgency because of demographics. We are aging rapidly. I think the proportion of people who are aged over 65 in Singapore is going to treble in the next 20 years. So this effort becomes important and urgent. So we're investing considerable amount of effort and resources on bringing healthcare to the home and to the local community. Another example, because we are small and densely packed, transport and public transport will always be a big issue.
Right.
And
it is now.
Yes, it is now. And if you think about it, in the city, nothing affects your mood more than being stuck in a jam and feeling that you've wasted too many hours of your life on that daily commute. So can we make the daily commute shorter, more efficient, more pleasant, more productive? So even simple things like, should you have full broadband access even while you're traveling, so you can work, entertain, or educate yourself while you're traveling, so you're not just wasting time in a sense, right? And then you talk about at the workplace. We all know that competition is global. We all know that the way we produce, the way we distribute, the way we market products, all this is undergoing a revolution. We need to make sure that Singapore companies have the skills, have the reach, have the networks, have the wherewithal to invest and upgrade in our both the hardware and the software side of it, so that Singapore companies remain competitive in this brave new world that we're going towards. So you see, in a sense, if you look at this whole spectrum, I just cited a few examples, right? Healthcare, smart homes, public transport, workplaces, education, training, social capital. There are many
aspects.
I refer to these as kind of vertical columns, that we're trying to put in place. But so each of these represent, in a sense, a domain. But you see that the common thread that links them all is they're all still focused on daily life, making life better, increasing opportunities, making us more competitive, and yet building trust, building capability, building social capital, and keeping our society as cohesive as possible. If you see those things as pillars, then your next question should be, well, how are you going to build up these things? Right? I mean, it's well and fine to say, well, I've got needs. How are you going to achieve it? Number one, we intend to ensure that our infrastructure is top in the world. So if you have to talk about broadband speeds, mobile coverage, access to equipment, ours has to be the best in the world. And because we are small and we've got, we've built up sufficient reserves, we can ensure that we stay ahead of the curve on that point. So I would say the hardware side of the infrastructure in Singapore, that's almost easy.
Almost done?
Almost done. No, it'll always be work in progress, but I would say it's
Okay.
almost easy, right? I mean, compared to the Philippines or other
Right.
countries which are on a much bigger scale. Here we have to wire up a city. We've got to, give all our citizens the tools. It's much easier in Singapore, but it's still a non-trivial exercise. Okay, so that's one layer, infrastructure. The next layer is capability. In other words, you have to make sure all of us, every citizen, is educated, is trained, has got retraining opportunities, and that's where we're working with schools and this program called Skills Future.
Yes.
So in schools, we intend to teach computational thinking to every student, starting in primary school. So even if you are not going to actually code, you at least understand what computational thinking is.
All students?
Yes, we want to. It's almost like basic literacy. It used to be the 3 R's, right? I mean, you read, write, and arithmetic. I would say I would add computational thinking to one of those essential baseline skills that all students have. Having said that, we also are focused on Skills Future, which is an opportunity to retrain, retool, reskill our current workforce so that we can use the latest technologies which are available for manufacturing, for services, for analytics, big data. We have to invest, and we are going to invest a considerable amount on building up skills and capability. So that's the second layer. The software, in a sense, is the human software. Right? There's a layer above that, which is the ecosystem, meaning now that you've got infrastructure and you've got people, now you want an ecosystem in which enterprises can thrive. New ideas can be generated, ideas can be converted into solutions and products. A free market can apply, and that our companies will be able to access global opportunities on the basis of the products and services which they have developed here. Now, here I would add one caveat. It doesn't have to be invented here. What we're offering is that we will be smart, demanding consumers. We will take an idea, we will make it an attractive place for you to test bed, to prototype. If it works, we will upscale it. And if it works in Singapore, maybe it might work in cities elsewhere.
Okay.
Maybe it might work in Manila, it might work in Beijing, it can work in Africa, wherever. So the point is, we are not Silicon Valley. I'm very dubious when someone stands up and says, I'm going to be Silicon Valley. I think you need to understand that the unique constellation of features that have made Silicon Valley the preeminent place that it is today.
Is the goal to be Silicon Valley?
No, that is not our goal.
Okay.
Our goal is that there are some things which I can do better than Silicon Valley. So for instance, you can invent an autonomous vehicle in Silicon Valley. But if it comes to deploying it citywide, nationwide, having an entire national system of maps, sensors, coordination, being able to prototype and test it in real life, in a real busy metropolis, I think we can do that faster, perhaps even better.
Than Silicon Valley.
So the point is, I'm not competing, I'm
Okay.
complementing. And I'm trying to be part of a global value chain that takes great ideas, prototypes them, upscales them, and then applies them at a global level. So you realize I'm taking quite a demand-driven, applied approach to technology, because it is impossible for any of us in Southeast Asia to compete with the scale of talent and smart money and the entire ecosystem in Silicon Valley. So I tell my guys, no, we are aiming to be complementary, take ideas from there, give opportunities to companies even from Silicon Valley or from anywhere else in the world and say, this is one place where you've got to test out your product. Proof of concept, prototype, make it work. If it works, go elsewhere.
If it works in Singapore, let's see.
It may work elsewhere in other cities. And I think what gives us an added edge is that for the first time in human history, more than half of human beings now live in cities. Therefore, urban solutions that work in resource-constrained cities, resource constraints involving water, involving energy, involving food, involving distribution systems, logistics. All these are areas which we know there will be massive needs for in the future as urbanization progresses over the decades to come. So that gives us an opportunity. So that's how we see our role and our future.
So it's very comprehensive for a program that's actually fairly new. Like this was launched in November last year.
Yes.
So far, what have been the prototypes that you've seen, and what
well,
has worked,
right now, if you look
worked?
at this month, just this month alone, we're rolling out a prototype smart home technologies in Ihua, which is an old estate in Singapore. In fact, we want to test whether these things work with older households, with senior citizens. So it's not about installing in a university dormitory where everyone understands it.
Okay.
We're doing that. In the next month or two, we're going to have an autonomous vehicle running in certain parts of Singapore. Again, test how it works in our local context. Earlier next year, we'll probably roll out some healthcare applications, again focused on the home and delivering better, say, rehabilitation or monitoring of outcomes, parameters, teleconsultation with both physicians as well as a physiotherapist. I mean, we'll be working on those things. And also, there's a lot of work, ongoing work with regard to the school syllabus, the curriculum, as well as trying to make sure we have enough training providers for Skills Future. So there's a lot of frantic, no, not plans. There's a lot of frantic implementation beneath
already
the surface.
Going on.
Yes.
What's the role of the private sector? Like, how does business come in, or startups? Like, if I have an idea, I approach the government. How does it work?
Well, first of all, if you have an idea and you already have your own funding, you don't even need the government. You just need the government to stay out of the way, make sure the regulations allow you to test bit new technologies and to see whether your idea flies. So that's one scale, right? You've got the idea, you've got the networks, you've got the money, you don't need us, except to make sure we don't get in your way. A lot of governments make mistakes sometimes of getting in the way of the private sector. We don't do that. The next is that you may come to us and say, well, you have told me you need a solution, let's say in public transport, or in water, or in energy, or in education. Well, I've got an idea which may be relevant to you. Then the government would say, well, okay, let's test your idea, do a proof of concept, or even prototype it and see whether it works. If it works, that's fine, we can upscale it. We might even buy it from you or buy services from you.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, well, it's a learning experience for both you and the government.
Okay.
Right? So this idea about prototyping and being a test bed is another example. A third way is that we have, through our National Research Foundation, we've set aside a significant sum of money to invest in research and particularly in development of new technologies or platform technologies which will address especially urban needs of a city. So there we might even get corporate labs or research institutions coming to Singapore and saying, we've got a great idea, we need some support. We would get the experts in the field to review that idea and decide whether it's worth investing or co-investing with corporate labs or research institutions to take that idea further to the point where hopefully it can be prototyped and actually tested in the real world.
You talk about this and you always say that it's for the daily life of Singaporeans.
Yes.
The vision, what would be the vision? Like, if you put this in place, if you're able to build all the pillars, as you call it, how would be a typical Singaporean day be like?
Let's imagine a daily, take any person, right?
The routines.
The routine. Right? Hopefully you've had a good night's sleep. Without noisy interruptions, because all environmental sensors are in place. Make sure no unnecessary noise, no loud traffic, and all. So you've had good night's sleep. You wake up, you do your routines. If need be, your health parameters are measured. If you need to take any meds, that is both prescribed and recorded. If any communication with your healthcare providers is needed, all that goes seamlessly. Food, the way you procure food, the way it is delivered, the way it is prepared, is done cost effectively, is done efficiently. You have nutritious food on the table. When you make that commute to work, that it is as short and pleasant as possible. At work, that you have the latest technology at hand, whatever business you're doing or whatever job you're doing, that you are empowered with the latest and the best. You remain in touch with your family, and we also acknowledge the fact that there will be Singaporeans all over the world, and you want space and time to collapse, so you still stay in touch. Your family ties, your community bonds are still vital and alive. At the end of a day's work, again, improve the commute. Make sure that there are many options for wholesome recreation, family time. Again, using technology to improve that experience. So you just think of how we use technology to improve the daily life and the needs of human beings. I think the needs for health, for security, for education, for entertainment, for engagement, those things don't change, you see. Technology will change many things, but I believe human needs don't change. We need to meet those human needs better using technology. So that's just an example, it's how I see it. Yes, yes. Let me give you an example of this. You mentioned flooding, but let's start with air quality, for instance, right? People want to be able to see blue skies.
Yes.
Right? They want to know that their children's growth and development is not going to be threatened or harmed by toxins in the air or in the water. How should you achieve all this? Yes, of course you can have rules. Every government has rules on clean air and clean water. But can you monitor it? Can you monitor it and make it transparent so that everybody knows the parameters in his own neighborhood? Can you have a system that imposes accountability on every single company? And that's why we have moved. You'll notice that certainly in the case of environment in Singapore, we put all those parameters in the public domain.
Yes,
if you go to data.gov.sg, our Prime Minister has insisted that we have to put as much government data as possible, and not just PDF files. It has to be machine readable. It has to be accessible through APIs, right? Application Programmable Interfaces. And as I said, this enhanced transparency builds trust and gives people an opportunity to become part of the solution. Every complaint is a data point. You don't treat a complaint as a fight. Whether you're complaining about the air or the water or the river or the canal, it's a data point. It's an opportunity to generate a solution. So I see that there's a great confluence between building smart, sustainable cities, and in fact there's a need to do so. And those of us who can achieve both these aims will have solutions which I think will be in demand in many other cities of the world. People all over the world actually want very similar things.
So speaking of that, how do you think Smart Nation and all these ideas, is it possible to do that in other nations, in other societies? Like, is there a replicability factor there?
The answer is yes. You need political will, you need organization, you need transparency, you need education, you need the rule of law. Like I said, the rest of it, the technology part, the hardware part, that one can be bought.
That's easy.
That's easy. But political will, organization, you know, it's actually the human dimensions of it which are more challenging, right? So I would say so political will, social capital, and organization. You know, it's not really, there are no real trade secrets in this. Actually, politicians all over the world know what to do.
Yeah.
Right? The question is, can we do it?
Will you do it?
Will we do it? And will we be able to convince our people that we've got the right plan? And yes, there are trade-offs. Yes, there are challenges and hurdles. But let's make it happen. That is the real challenge.
Okay, thank you so much, Minister. Thank you for joining us. This has been our conversation on Smart Nation here in Singapore. I'm Ai Makaraig.